Hi Misha, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was following your traveling, and I'm kind of impressed from all the places that you managed to visit in the meantime, because it was like what, about 6 weeks since we saw each other.
Right, yeah, I love traveling, yeah.
So your traveling was amazing, and
Thank
especially
you.
in Italy with all these beautiful places, I was very impressed.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about your SPearphones. So we've heard a lot about SB7 model, and what about SB5? What is it? What is it about?
Well, we were instigated to start a project with SB5s because, of course, we are bombarded by negative reactions from quite a few customers regarding physical shape and dimensions of SB7. And as I mentioned in our previous interview, the problem is we insisted on 100% optimality, I mean sound quality wise, versus 100% universality. So in that sense, we lose a lot of market share just because the shape of SB7, and it's very critical, the same way as driver's complement is very critical. So as much as we try to change physical configuration of SB7, we failed. So we decided to start from scratch, and we decided to develop a new model which would have, let's say, more accessible physical shape and physical configuration. So then we can provide it to a much wider audience. So I'm sorry about this distraction.
Sorry for that.
So in any case, we started SB5 to see what we can do regarding physical configuration without sacrificing the sound quality.
And what about no pain, no gain? The same concept?
The same concept, because the problem is, as I mentioned, it's still under the same umbrella of 100% optimality in terms of sound quality. So of course we can compromise, but not a lot. The problem is the balanced armature drivers nomenclature. The list of the available drivers is very limited. So I would say probably the whole manufacturing community at the time is using, let's say, just 10 different drivers, even if the nomenclature is very wide.
What about in terms of the price? Are they cheaper?
Yes. Well, let's keep it a secret until the end of the interview.
Okay.
But
let's
it's not about price. I think the main idea was to actually make it smaller, let's put it this way,
Right.
so then more people can put the earphones inside their ear canals. That was the main idea. But at the same time, as I said, we wouldn't like to sacrifice the sound quality. So because of the drivers we use, they basically have the same dimensions. The task was not very easy to preserve the same sound quality, I would say not sound quality, but sound quality level, and at the same time make it smaller.
Right, and you are an audio artist, and you have a very different approach. I've read it was very intuitive in this case. Could you explain it? What does it mean?
Well, the thing is, we were also criticized quite a lot about our non-technical approach. Most of the manufacturers usually tout their technical reasons why their design is such and such. They would provide some foundation for their design in terms of technical data, measurements, and all sorts of specs. We deliberately decided to strike a different path. And our path is, instead of spending years studying technical matters, and then maybe spend a few years doing PhD, and then to spend another few years on a problem, we decided that we can approach from the opposite direction. Namely, we would build a prototype after prototype after prototype after prototype. Then our intuition would kick in and would point us in the right direction.
That is very interesting. How do you feel it, like the moment?
Well, it's interesting. I was actually thinking about it. I have a very vague memory of when it happened. I remember that I was experimenting with a few configurations, and then the sound drastically changed. And I can't remember the exact moment when it happened, but that was a turning point. So when I stuck on a, let's put it this way, golden nugget in terms of sound quality, I decided how I can polish that golden nugget, and that's how the final configuration of SB7 took shape. So it's an interesting question, and I thought about it quite a lot, because there is a blog on our website which describes the history of our company, and you can see the pictures of different iterations, starting from the most basic one up to the current one. So if you look at these changes, and there are some pictures, you would probably see how it's been developed. But the turning point, I can't really say why and when it happened.
Mm-hmm. And I also read that it took you a long time to develop this model.
Yes, but as I started answering this question, that it takes a lot of time to become a skilled and experienced expert in a certain field. And as I said, there's a technical path to become an expert, and there's an artistic path. And in our case, of course, it was more artistic than technical. But the reason I'm trying to justify my approach is, if you look at the opinions expressed in reviews on our product, these opinions never question the sound quality. Of course, they question our concept of physical configuration, which means that, in a way, we struck a proper path, that we reached great sound quality, which was our main goal. So in that sense, I justify this artistic path, saying, show me technical results which would be better. Mm-hmm. And then it would prove that I'm wrong.
And in terms of the sound, what's
the difference?
What's the difference?
When we started to do our SB7 project, we didn't really have an idea of what the capability of balanced armature. So because we spent about 5 years developing SB7, by the end of these 5 years, finally, we've got an idea, and we kind of grasped the limitations and advantages of balanced armature technology. So when we approached SB5 project, we already had this knowledge, and we already had this experience. So instead of making a trickle-down version of SB7 and just make it cheaper and smaller, my idea was, can we look at different aspects of balanced armature, and instead of doing a trickle-down version of SB7, we would look at it as different aspect of balanced armature technology. By different aspect, I mean, on the one hand, we can make an earphone which would be very universal in different sense, means playing all sorts of music as loud as you want, deep bass, very transparent, and of course on the downside it can be a little bit constricted, a little bit bright, etc., etc. But the thing about SB5, as I saw it, instead of going wider or narrow in terms of frequency response and functionality, we decided to look deeper with SB5s. In that sense, just to give you an analogy, in video there is what's called grayscale. Grayscale is if you have 100% black to 100% white and about 100 different shadings of gray. So with SB7, the scale of black to white, let's put it this way, like 100 different gradations. With SB5, from totally black to totally white, sonically, it would be like 150 different shadings. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to go deeper in sound, maybe make it even more refined to provide a better resolution, and maybe limit musical capability in terms of genre, but provide within a certain musical genre even deeper look at what's going on.
And what do you like to listen to?
I'd say in my particular case, and it's a good question, I would probably say that most of my listening is to acoustic music, be it let's say full-blown orchestras or chamber jazz. or like singer-songwriters, or classical music, or folk music. I also like once in a while to listen to different types of music, be it electronic music, or be it dance music, or be it popular music. But what we want to look at deeper, and it's based upon that functionality I've been talking about during our previous interview, I still have to keep my focus on the main functionality of high-end audio. And I mentioned this in the past, and it's got a lot to do with the way SB-5s were developed. I define functionality in high-end audio as a tool to help people to learn a new musical language. I'm repeating myself because I already said that in the last interview, but the thing is, in my opinion, high-end audio is like a microscope. So microscope is an instrument to help people to find out and to gain new knowledge about a certain field of science. The same way high-end audio, in a way, is a tool to help people learn a language of different types of music. And during the whole history of high-end audio, that type of music was defined as acoustical music, because absolute sound was defined by the editor of the magazine is the sign. It's actually the sound of a live instrument in a live space.
And you mentioned that it sounds like origami knife in your blog, in your review.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
To put this analogy further, is when we say that we would like to do even better instrument to learn a new musical language. In that sense, SB7 is like a big assault weapon which allows you to deal with a lot of situations where you need high volume, a lot of bass, a lot of kick, a lot of sound pressure. But SB5 is more like a refined origami knife. So it's not an assault weapon, but just an origami knife which allows people who would like to refine their skill of advanced music listening to refine that skill even further.
This is truly artistic.
Very artistic, and I think that high-end audio is a very artistic field where people actually study, like in science, a new field of music with the help of high-end audio system. And unfortunately, during my career in high-end audio as a distributor and salesman, I saw a lot of wrong examples where people would buy these systems, and the analogy would be they would kick nails with a microscope. Mm-hmm. So we would like to narrow a field with SB5s to somebody who would be very conscious about the type of music they would use the earphones on. And the type of music is defined, as I said, something new, something deep, something that they can continue to refine their skill of advanced music listening.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
It was Misha and Masha for you guys.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, Masha.
It was a pleasure talking to you and seeing you again.
See you and bon voyage.
Merci.